Well, hello there, humans, bees, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, well, you've come at a time of great consternation and controversy. Welcome to Controversy Corner. This is the Chieftain Mk6. There's a lot of angst about this tank, and well, there might be. To break things down, this is a crate tank. That means you've got a 5% chance when you buy a crate of this dropping in it. So theoretically, you'd have to spend a lot of money. I bought it with Wargaming's cash. This is not on my account. This is the contributor account. And I spent 27,000 gold, which was about the equivalent of 130 bucks Australian, which is a lot of money. But I got it on the 4th crate, so, you know, you get them on the big jobs. There was a crate tank recently that was tier 10. And I was critical of the fact that the crate tank was tier 10 because I like tier 10 being the ultimate challenge. It is the tier that you have to grind to. And I understand that Wargaming is a consumer-driven organisation. And I am far more practical about that than most people. Most people tend to think that video game companies should just give stuff away for free and that no one in there ever has to actually be paid a wage. There is a huge cross-section of the community that has some kind of idealistic image of amateurism when it comes to video game companies. I don't. I work in the industry. I understand that there are people that I deal with on a day in, day out basis who have hopes, dreams, and aspirations, and they have to be paid a wage. But tier 10 should not be a premium tank tier. It just flat out shouldn't. So I'm dead against crates, and if you don't want to get the tank, I am wholeheartedly on your side. That being said, we can't really pretend it doesn't exist, and for better or worse, it's my job to talk to you guys about the topics that are current in the game and the tanks that are current in the game. And this is, you're not going to get any more red hot and current than this. So let's talk about it. I spent 27,000 gold. Wasn't my gold, was Wargaming's gold. And I got the tank in the 4th crate, I think it was. I got 10 containers for 27,000 gold, which is about 130 bucks Australian. There's the Chieftain in the 4th crate. We've got 6 to go. 5th crate, more gold. And you see I got another Chieftain there. Excellent stuff. So we actually picked up a fair bit of gold in return. So you got to that's fair enough. But so they improved the bonuses there, which is great. But at the same time, you know, issues. So the armor profile, let's talk to the armor. Let's speak to the armor profile first. It's very, very much like the tier 8 Chieftain. Strong upper glacis, strong turret with a weak point on top in the form of a hatch, but it's a lot harder to hit. And the other thing is it's got 10 degrees of gun depression, not the 8 degrees you get on something like the E5, so you can really angle that hatch up hard. The part that's really bad in terms of the armor profile, which I didn't spend a lot of time on there, but I will show you, is the lower glacis. You get areas of the lower glacis that are like sub 95 millimeters of penetration required, and that ain't good considering that, well, just for instance, the Chieftain has HESH. It does 110 millimeters of HE pen and rolls for an average of 515. So you can see right there, any tank that has like 100 millimeters of pen on a high explosive shell can full roll your lower plate. And I think that is about the only thing that will stop this tank from dominating, because if a tank has enough gun depression to get its gun down to your lower plate, you are going to eat a whole hell of a lot of damage. And it's fair enough that that's there, because if it didn't have some kind of negative, I'd be screaming from the treetops. And that is a huge negative. When you face up to like a Death Star or you know, any of the 120 millimeter guns, there's a chance that you're going to get HE, 150 millimeter guns, chance that you're going to cop a HE shell right between the eyeballs. But it can give as good as it gets. It has both 260 millimeters of pen on its APCR, so there's no need to run calibrated shells on this thing, and 110 millimeters of pen on its high explosive rounds. And if it drops that high explosive, its average DPM goes through the roof up to like 4,000 and something. You know, it's crazy. You're not going to get that all the time, but you are going to get opportunities to use HESH. And so it's going to be a tank that chews Batchats, Leo 1s, grills, waffle tractors, anything like that, it's going to chew them up alive. You do not want any part of this tank. It's already got amazing DPM. 7.92 rounds a minute, fully buffed with 400 average alpha. Means you're doing just a shade under 3,200 damage per minute. So you're the same kind of DPM that you get on that crazy horse, the FV215B. But you also get 10 degrees of gun depression on a mid-mounted turret, unlike the 215B, which means, there's a lot of bad things can happen to you if you are that tank that pushes on this kind of tank when it's hull down. And it's one of the reasons why I really relate it to the Centurion 7-1. The turret is strong, but it's not super strong. It's got a weak point in it. Its gun is laser-like. Your gun, you're looking at .308, which for a heavy is exceptionally good. The penetration numbers are good, and you get cheap hesh. And you can see me just trying to figure out if I can cheap hesh that Yag Tiger, and I couldn't, but I hit him in the tinderbox and get a good fire roll anyway. And this is like a horrible, horrible position for me to be in, because the Yag Tiger is like the biggest DPM tank in the game. And despite the fact that I have enough DPM to make it honest and keep him on the up and up, I'm still going to get screwed over. And our IS-7 YOLO down the bottom into the bat chat, and the 215B, and then wants to say report me, and I'm the only bloke that did any damage. So, good on you, mate. If you learnt to play, I think we'd be a lot better off. Back to the tank itself. Report Chieftain. This guy's an idiot. I digress. I did 3,500 damage. The turret traverse is 36.45 degrees, which is excellent. That's just grand, right? And your traverse speed on your tracks is 36.45. And you'll see I've got no problems tracking targets with this tank. I'm going to show you a couple of games now with the Chieftain from a couple of subscribers, and one of them is from a Patreon. Perfect Cell, that is the last game I'll show you. He dropped the Patreon in the Patreon Telegram chat, this Chieftain video, and he was nice enough to tell me that I could use the game. So happy days. Thanks very much for that, amigo. Appreciate it a lot. So this is 4D YOLOcast. Heck, he's an idiot. Great name. Let's speak. I need to mention the look. Like, it's just criminal how good it looks. I mean, if you're looking for a reason, this is going to sell like hotcakes. It's a good tank. It offers something that's pretty unique in its tier, which is something that I love and a lot of people love, which is a Brit hull down, cheap hesh tank. Like, this is what you'd kind of want from the Centurion Action X, hey? And yet you're getting it in the Chieftain Mk6. I'd love for this thing to be in a tech tree. Like, if it was in a tech tree, you'd make your money on free XP, surely. Like, it's so good. Secondly, look at the camo. You buy the camo, and the camo looks epic. The tank looks freaking gorgeous. And it performs like a tank that looks like a supermodel and is also an incredible, like, Olympic athlete. Like, it's got everything going for it. And when it drops the hammer, it can burn things down to the ground. Like, the upper glacis is strong as well. If you get hit on the upper glacis, look at that thing. The upper glacis will bounce shots. It's much like the FV4202's upper glacis. You've got to hit that lower plate. It's brutal. If you can hit the lower plate, you're going in all day. And when it's physically out in the open here, you've got to make sure those shots go low. If you don't, you can eat it. 260mm of pen on your APCR. That's a lot of pen. Hey, no, I mean, that's a cubic buttload of pen. You're going to struggle bouncing shots with your lower glacis, but everyone does. So as long as you play smart tactical tanking and don't just go out, frontally in front of an FV215B183, you're going to work them. And look at the gun. Look at the gun sing. The rate of fire on this thing when you drop the adrenaline is tremendous. Hesh, right in the butt. What you going to do? And look at this. This is that hull down monster we're talking about. Going hull down, angling up slightly so that you've got that really bouncy upper glacis working overtime, loading up the hesh, hitting 500 alpha on a round. Like, oh, is that right? No, not really. It shouldn't be doing that. You're going to get people driving this thing who are terrible. But these guys aren't. 40 Holocaust knows exactly what he's doing. And he's doing it in an exemplary fashion. Perfect Cell knows exactly what he's doing. And he too, in the next game, does exceptionally well with it. I was lucky enough today to play about 15 games in the tank and had just the most potato teams the world's ever seen. But I'll bet you my average damage in it was reasonable in the games where we actually were involved. We did lots of 3k plus games. A 500 alpha roll. Oh, you love this thing. And it's not the tank's fault. You can't change that. Like, you've got to play long amounts to make sure you regress back to the mean. By that, I mean 606 hash round. Get out of town. Just get out of town. That's 110 millimeters of hash pen. Like, that is ridiculous, the damage this thing can do with its hash rounds once you know what you're doing. And a bat chat and a waffle tractor is like the world's worst duo to have to deal with. This is the worst tank to have to deal with. It's got more DPM than either of them, and it's got better pen, just as good a gun handling as anything it can throw a stick at, and the ability to pen them all with HE shells that do 500 alpha. Yeah, I don't know what else to tell you. 40 Holocaust, absolutely massive game. Just nearly 6k damage, mastery badge, just, 5 kills, high caliber, the whole 9 yards. Hats off, man. Beautiful work. This is eerily reminiscent of every mastery game that I've played on this map before in like Ascent, an E5, a T32. Get to the middle and dominate with great gun handling and a solid turret. And Perfect Cell absolutely nails it here. This is what the tank was built for. I mean, look at that gun. Look at that gun and look at that turret. They're going for the hatch there. That's why the viewfinder keeps getting broken. And that's one of the things you are going to find on this tank. If you expose that hatch, you're going to be spending an awful lot of time with a viewfinder that's, a broken ass viewfinder. The sides are very, very weak. You've got to watch out for that side armor. The side armor on this tank is abysmal. 50 millimeters of side armor. Sure, you've got some tracks and everything, but at the same time, the area above the tracks is literally 50 millimeters. 54, I think it is. If you go and expose the sides of this tank to any kind of HE, you're going to be screwed. If you've driven the WZ113, you know exactly what I'm talking about. A side armor that just is non-existent, despite the fact that it's tremendously amazing in terms of DPM. I'll also grant that not a lot of people have driven against the tank yet, but that number will change certainly, because I found a heap of them in the games that I was in today. But as they get to grips with that side armor and what it can do, I mean, look at this gun, just charging. I've got more, that pattern there doesn't have as much DPM as this Chieftain Mk6. Like, that's a terrifying thought. Obviously, it's a lot more mobile, but this tank is by no means, a ground-bound fool that's got no vertical. This thing can get out and run. It's got the ability to, well, not get out and run. It's probably a little bit of an overstatement. It can move. Okay, its top speed is 42 kilometers an hour, and for a heavy tank with 35 degrees of traverse or so on both turret and tracks, that is absolutely plenty. You can see that 167, that's because that E50 tried to HE him. Because that's a tempting target right there. Another big hammer in. This is the way you drive this tank. Get to a hull down position that does not expose your lower glacis. Use the incredible gun handling and fantastic penetration. Use the 10 degrees of gun depression. Use that amazingly strong upper glacis and very bouncy turret. And profit. And Perfect Cell does this absolutely perfectly. Lives up to his name and deserves the mastery, absolutely deserves it. You can see, looking to pen the mouse, one of the hardest tanks in the game to pen. Straight through that lower glacis, 400 alpha, no problems whatsoever. The cheeks are available at 260 millimeters a pen. But, you know, everyone else is clobbering anyway. That's it, boys and girls. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. It's definitely an eye-opener for me. The Mk6 in the Royal Camo, 5,121 damage. Excellent work, perfect sell. I enjoyed watching that video in particular. And it's a great way to be able to access me directly, I guess. What I'm saying is if you want to become a patron, rock on in. There's a chat there, and if you want to send me your replays and that, it won't hurt. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Thank you so much for watching. Welcome. If that was your first video, wow, you came along at a time that's going to cause plenty of consternation and debate. Until next time, stay safe on the battlefield.